Okay, another episode. This time, we're going to take more shots at Antifa and point out how dumb they are by pointing out that their style of identifying political alliances is pretty stupid, and just the way they identify fascism is just retarded. So, let's go to someone who actually likes fascism, in a sense. Elliot, what's wrong with their
democracy for life?
Okay, whatever. What's their problem with fascism? What are they doing wrong?
Where do you start with these people, right? Like, okay, I get it. You're communists. You're anarcho-communists. You hate
You're
everything
already
to do
retarded
with
for that reason, but okay.
You don't want anything to do with the man per se. So anything that they view as infringing on things they don't infringing on them in ways they don't like, they're like, "Oh, it's fascism." I'm like, you motherfuckers wouldn't know fascism if it fucking took you to a gas chamber. They're arguing like it's not fascism. That's what I don't understand. And the fact they go around protesting, making assholes of themselves, no one respects Antifa. No one does. Because they come off as fucking idiots.
Entitled idiots. Because they think they can go around and do all this shit, wear masks, and not take any consequences. So when the cops run at them and throw them to the ground, they're like, ah!
Basically, plus you've had a run-in with autistic screeching. You had a run-in with these special children, didn't you?
Of course I did.
Well, why don't you tell us about that?
I mean, the biggest thing that I noticed, because I got into an argument with one of them about basically just the political spectrum, because they kept saying that I was a fascist and that Milo was a fascist and that Trump was a fascist and all this crap, and it's like, okay, first
everyone
of all,
don't like is a Nazi.
They're a Nazi and I'm a Nazi and Trump's not, whatever, all this stuff, and it's like, okay, stop. First of all, I mean, I don't even agree with Milo on like half of his stuff. Like it's very like the only reason I like him is because he's just some flamboyant gay who speaks his mind, and that is very important. But here's the thing: when I talked to them, they kept trying to imply that on the two ends of the political spectrum, they assumed that the political spectrum was a line. It was a singular line, and on one end you had communism, and on the other end you had fascism. Except that's not even true remotely. And that's not even a failure of to identify fascism. That's just a failure of the model, because the model, if you actually look at what fascism is, you can't plot fascism on that model other than like putting it in the center, but it's not even center. So that's why, on the screen right now I'm showing that the top political spectrum is wrong, simply because fascism is not a far right-wing thing, and the correct version is the XY coordinate plane, where fascism would just be extreme centrism, and then it could go either left or right. So I tried to explain this to these people, and of course, the autistic, screeching anarcho-communist runs in and calls me a liberal and says I'm evil for being the white man who came in and killed all the natives and shit. And then I remarked to him, I'm like, dude, my great
You're the anti-liberal.
You're the anti-liberal, and you're pissed. But I made sure to tell him, I was like, dude, my parents emigrated, my great-grandparents immigrated here in the 1920s. Like, they had nothing to do with anything. And I think the German side was here like maybe a little sooner than that, but I don't remember about that side. But like, the point is, my family has not actually been in America that long. So it's like, dude, stop it.
Stop.
But to get back on track, it's just I don't get how they can be basically convinced that fascism, because what is fascism in and of itself? All it really is just like, military rule combined with usually
authoritarianism.
Yeah, basically authoritarianism. I mean, it's military authoritarianism, but the thing is, it could be left wing or right wing. Hitler and the Nazis and the Soviet Union that's not the Soviet Union. Sorry, that was communism. Hitler and the Nazis
it was red fascism. Soviet Union was red fascism, at least under Stalin. So you were actually pretty right on that.
Yeah, but then it went full communism, or at least
another example. Can I bring up another example?
They
Sure.
tried to.
Well, there is also center-left and center-right fascism. The way I can describe that is you have Pinochet and what's his name? Perón. Perón derived his power from traditionally left-wing sources, workers' unions. The people, he gave them a lot of free shit, but he also got stuff from the military. But you can have both left and right-wing fascism.
Yeah.
And wait, what was that last one? Perón? Where is he? Spain?
No, he's Argentina.
You know what? Well, that actually brings up a really good question. You never really hear about the fascist dictators that don't do anything, that just run their country and don't do anything, right? Ever noticed that?
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, people be like, oh, no. One thing that really kind of
to be like it.
No, one thing that really kind of I find to be very intriguing is when people like group all dictators under fascism. Like, for instance, Pol Pot, even though Pol Pot wasn't a fascist.
No.
Pol Pot wasn't
he a communist?
Yeah, he was
sort of.
He was like a
He
version
wasn't
of a communist.
I mean, I want to say Juche, but not. What the what even was he?
He was a communist. He was part of the Khmer Rouge.
The Khmer Rouge.
Khmer Rouge. I thought it was the Khmer Rouge.
Khmer Rouge? Just Khmer Rouge.
It's the something Rouge.
Khmer Rouge.
Khmer Rouge? The Khmer Rouge? I don't know, whatever you want to say.
It's spelled Khmer.
Yes, Khmer Rouge.
Khmer Rouge. Whatever. I've been hearing British people say it for years.
It's because they're British.
Yeah, whatever. But then the other thing we need to point out is, besides just the fact that they seem to not understand why their model is wrong. I mean, let's talk about their belief system for a minute. And under Antifa, you've got, let's take them in order.
Anarcho-Capitalism.
Let's take at least the significant anarchos in order of least retarded to most retarded. So, anarcho-capitalists, anarcho-communists, actually no, let's you know what? I'm actually going to give them a little more credit. We're going to redo the order. Anarcho-egoists,
I mean, but that's actually a fact of life.
Anarcho-capitalists and then anarcho-communists. And there's a bunch of other anarchos, but I don't really care about them. Wait, are there any other significant ones, Casey?
Anarcho-communism / anarcho-syndicalism, but that's like...
I mentioned that.
I know, but like syndicalism is usually a lot more popular than anarcho-communism. But regardless of the fact...
aren't they very similar, though?
They're more or less the same thing, except syndicalists believe in like total worker rule, and communists are, well... They could be a whole different thing.
They're all retarded, we'll just say that. But... let's start because let's start with the egoism though, because I feel like that's actually a somewhat respectable position in a certain sense.
Can you give me a very short description of it? Is it fuck you, I do what I want?
It is simply, if you cannot fight for it, it is not yours.
In the end.
Yes.
Might is right.
Might is right.
It is the default
that's where
condition of
firearms
nature.
come from.
Exactly.
Well, it's the default.
You see what I mean? How this is the least retarded anarcho.
I mean, the thing is, it has some sense. It's based in reality. It's not like anarcho-communism, which is counterintuitive. It doesn't work that way.
Exactly. But that's the thing. Like I said, and but the thing about anarcho-egoism, it's kind of deceptive in that, like, you hear about it and you think, oh, that sounds stupidly simple, blah 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 blah. But if you really think about it, it's got a few interesting implications. Because the thing is if you can't, if you have to defend what is yours, and if you can't defend it, it doesn't belong to you. Isn't that basically how, like, most of the world has functioned?
That's like how geopolitics.
When we were ye old barbarians.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how nature functions.
And like Casey just said, geopolitics. I mean, if the United States could not, if the United States could not defend its borders, our country wouldn't belong to us, in a sense.
To be fair, We have a massive ass ocean to the east and west of us. We have Canada to the north of us, which Canada is so large, don't bother. And then Mexico is Mexico, and no one really cares about them other than Trump supporters. But other than that,
and weed enthusiasts.
Yes, and weed enthusiasts. The thing is, the United States is actually one of the most bullshit countries on the face of this planet. You are nigh impossible to fucking invade. You have fuckloads of natural resources and massive industry. Like, what is this? Superpower 2, banned from playing the United States for good reason.
No bullshit.
Bullshit. Because it's bullshit.
Don't you start with a shitload of debt, though?
No, you're thinking of the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Oh, yeah.
Literally.
I think the first time I played Superpower 2, you made me start as, like, Turkey.
Yeah, because, well, Turkey's not OP. The U.S. is OP. Like, U.S. is just, like, it's on autopilot. You don't have to worry about the economy. You can literally crash the economy with no survivors. You'll still win the game.
With no survivors.
With no survivors. Couldn't you just nuke everyone on the planet and win the game?
No, because you have...
No, you could. It would involve pausing the game and, you know, targeting everyone. But, yeah, no, you could do that.
Okay, back to talking this. So that's anarcho-egoism. So why is anarcho-capitalism kind of stupid?
Everything will be. The thing is the monopoly of force does not exist, so it'd be fucking horrible. I mean, if you boil a government down to it, all it is the monopoly of force. It's the legitimate monopoly on force, because they're the guys who can enact force on people, and we don't usually get pissed as a society.
Exactly.
And
and if you don't have a monopoly on force, pretty soon, I mean, you know, what's to keep John when he sees his neighbor, you know, accidentally spray a little bit of his garden hose into his lawn, violating the NAP, and then making him want to launch mortars into his house. You know,
I mean, I understand that that's like meant to be kind of tongue-in-cheek, but first thought is mortars.
Yes, but that's the thing is like it is supposed to be tongue-in-cheek, but the problem with the NAP is what's gonna keep someone from actually doing that? Like in an anarcho-capital society, you basically have to assume that everyone will treat everyone else super nicely and are going to be the nicest people on the planet. No, people
That's
are
the problem with any anarcho. That's the problem with all these anarchist societies. They have, like, everyone has to think the same way everyone else does.
Yeah. And that will never happen. So.
Well, it can happen, but the problem is they have kids, and the kids aren't as happy about it. That happened here in Washington. We had some utopian socialist community out on the Key Peninsula, and it worked for one generation, but the kids are like, guys, they have TV. We're barely at subsistence farming here, guys.
It's time to stop.
So the kids basically disbanded it.
Yeah, basically, in the end.
Nice. Well, I mean, that's the other big problem with anarcho-capitalism is because they'll say like, like one of the big questions is, you know, you still have a truly free market. Well, you know, my first question is always, you know, where does any of your businesses or any of your services, goods, or anything, where do they get their, you know, I guess the only way I could really think to say this is, you know, their legitimacy. You know, where do they get their, you know, legitimacy? And they'll obviously, you know, it's given by the people because they can choose to buy and sell from whoever they want. Well, yeah, that's true. But the issue is like, what's to keep someone from, you know, literally what is there stopping someone from just taking your money and running and not giving you anything? Or taking your money and shooting you? You know, what if there's literally a bit, like bank robbing and, you know, burglary and all that stuff would be legitimate business practices. Simply because if there's no government, there's no law enforcement. Now, sure, someone could defend his house, but against a group of like 10 dudes, I mean, good luck. Especially if these guys are trained and coordinated.
Oh boy.
That's why you
Train.
get. That's why you have your child slaves, man. You use them as human meat shields.
Oh god.
Oh, I prefer the term tactical ablative armor.
Mm.
Tactical ablative armor, human shields, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been brushing up on my newspeak. Gotta give them the newspeak.
Yep. Well, even that. Well, so now, okay. Let's jump down to the final, to the most retarded, the anarcho-communists and the anarcho-syndicalists, or syndicalists.
You can't have communism without a government. It's fucking like anarcho-communism is just anarchy. There is no difference. It's pure anarchy because you need a government.
Like, well,
If
like,
you
yeah, who's
any
like,
government?
who's
Then
gonna-
you're against your own morals. You're against your own ideals.
like the whole big thing about communism is the government basically it's forced equality amongst everyone. In an anarcho-communist society, who forces the equality? I mean, the thing is, people don't naturally want to just have just enough. They want to have that and then some. So they're gonna try to, take the shit from their neighbors, and then boom, all of a sudden, there goes the death of the communist idea. And if some entity steps up and it's like, okay, all y'all motherfuckers, I'm gonna enforce the sharing. Okay, you've just gotten a government.
Exactly.
So by its very definition, it can't exist. I mean, it assumes, like I said, like we said earlier, it assumes people's good intentions when there really is no good reason to assume that. So, I mean, and the true irony that I want to point out, to kind of circle back to where we started with the whole fascist problem, is like, more and more I'm reminded of Winston Churchill's quote. You know what I'm talking about, Casey?
Oh, the fascists of tomorrow will claim. Fuck, I forget. I can't think
the
of it.
fascists of the future will claim to be anti-fascists.
Antifa!
Or literally, I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, Antifa. Isn't there a quote by Churchill that basically says the fascists of the future will be called anti-fascists? And I was like, yeah! Oh, I see now. I see through all your lies.
I see through your lies, Barack Obama.
You wicked devil. Ah!
We fucking days since Alex Jones reference when we flip that over to 0 right quick.
Yep. It's gonna stay there. But yeah, but that's the thing I don't think Antifa really gets. And also, how do they communicate with each other? That's what I want to know. Because like, what social media sites what do they use?
They use a lot of cell phones. I mean, hell, there's a r/Antifa.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm gonna go on there and troll.
I mean, I don't know. I find it funny because like
All I would do I would just
Oh,
post
fuck.
Winston Churchill's quote over and over again. That's all I will do.
You'll get banned. Mods will probably just be like, "Oh my God, you're a fascist." I mean,
I'd be like, guys, read the damn quote.
Basically, let's see.
Literally, just read the damn quote. And I mean, yeah. But remember, just like me, these are the boys who can't read.
It's the boys who can't read.
Yep.
oh yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a short one, but that's basically all I really wanted to talk about. Just the stupidity of their political compass and just the retardedness of any of the anarcho movements. We could do a more in-depth of the anarcho stuff later, but like, I mean, here's an interesting thing to throw out there. Like, I accidentally called you a fascist earlier, Elliot, and I will apologize. But what are you actually?
Well, I'm a technocrat. Right.
So
I'm a
what is
technocrat, but because
what is technocracy?
technocracy is ruled by the most competent. That's how you get like ruled by the most competent people. Okay, your best scientist becomes your best becomes your I don't know, whatever.
Head of the Department of Education or something. I don't know.
Right. Your best general becomes head of what's it? Fucking the Department of Defense. You get the idea. It's the most competent person, right? and then it's because if you have like this is why I hate democracy, because you have incompetent people voting in incompetent people, and we fucking go nowhere. So fuck that shit. Just how about you just rule of the most competent people? Is that so difficult? It's so fucking hard.
Definitely give some food for thought. I don't think we can ever go pure technocracy, but I definitely hope you could work it into existing systems in some way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm just convinced that democracy is a shitty system, just in general, because it's like, why does the everyman need to have a say in government? Like, why? You don't know anything.
Well, that's why, way back when, like, the big issue now is the everyman has too big a say on the, on the national stage, whereas they really should only have a say on their local stage, and then on the national stage. See, that's why I'm more for the direct and the indirect election of senators. Like, elect your representatives, vote for stuff in your state, in your county, and in your city, but like you really shouldn't have a direct vote on anything that happens nationally, simply because the average person can't understand stuff that's going on nationally, and probably never will.
Exactly. It's far too complex, and it's a clusterfuck, right?
Yeah. And then, of course, one of the other things is if we didn't have direct election of senators, I mean, pretty sure Washington would always have at least one Republican senator, and then we might even have two, simply because, I mean, there's just more landmass. There's just more counties that go red than blue.
True, but the thing is shit. You can't delegate counties, so that you're right, but the population is still a big deal on that, because the whole purpose
of the Senate was to negate the population factor.
To mitigate it.
Or to mitigate, not negate, but yeah, mitigate. I mean,
learn your words.
Whatever. I'm just hoping that California actually does pull some of its bullshit, so that we can just say, okay, your representatives and your senators don't get to vote on anything.
The fucking California seceding from the Union.
And they're like, good luck.
Have fun.
Well, they can do it, but
they don't believe in guns, and then we can just invade and take them over as a subservient.
Do we really want them back, though? Do we really want them back?
We could turn it into slave labor.
Robots do it better.
True, robots do it better.
Robots do slave labor better.
Yeah.
Animatrix taught me that.
Thing is, though, once they start clamoring for rights, you better give it to them.
Or you simply just don't build, or simply you only make one robot sentient, and then you keep all your other robots not
stupid.
Stupid. I don't know. Yeah, you keep them stupid, not sapient, and you have maybe a handful of sapient robots, and that's about it. I mean, because then
I take that. I don't know.
Let's see. What are other countries what other states we could get rid of? Fuck the Deep South. All that shit can just leave. Because
I kind of want to keep Florida, because the most entertaining news comes from Florida.
Yes, because I don't know whether it's whether they drink too much leaded water or whether it's the swamp gas, but I mean, holy shit, Florida, it's time to stop.
Or the poison cigar smoke from Cuba is just wafting up there. Or,
Goddamn, but it's like, get rid of the Deep South, because the thing is, those Republican lawmakers, they're not even true Republicans. They're evangelists. That's the problem. When you have highly religious people in positions of power, only bad things happen. Only bad things happen. Mm-hmm. Right? Just like they're crashing. The thing is, they're crashing their states into the ground. Like, why the fuck is Mississippi the poorest state in the union? Why? It doesn't need to be. It's so.
That's why I like people But that's the thing, because look at other Republicans that come from places like, say, for instance, the Dakotas. Namesake. Well, not namesake, sorry. Example, Trey Gowdy comes from the Dakotas, I think.
From the
South Carolina.
Sorry, South Carolina. Shit. I knew it was one of the North and South states. Well, it's still, South Carolina isn't in the Deep South.
Nope, Mid-South. And it's
We can keep
and it's
that.
Talking like Alabama.
I'm talking like fuck Alabama, fuck Louisiana, fuck Mississippi. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Because the thing is,
we can
their
keep
lawmakers
Texas.
are driving those states into the ground, and they're the states that borrow the most out of all federal funding. Because let's teach abstinence-only education, has highest fucking rates of teen pregnancies. I mean, you guys are retarded. Like,
Yeah.
you are willfully ignoring evidence. It's like, are you stupid? Like, can't you read? You
Texas-
probably can't read.
Texas can
Wouldn't be
stay. Let's see. Texas can stay because
Because Texas is a special snowflake. It's
they're,
like
they're a beacon of knowledge blazing across a.
they're
black
not. I wouldn't call
sea
them a
of-
beacon of knowledge per se. More like a beacon of freedom.
Okay.
Remember, Texas. Okay, so Texas is the America of America. You gotta keep Texas. Texas is the face of America. When people think America, what do they think?
Texas.
They
The
think
Cowboys.
They think the Cowboys.
Texas. They think of Texas. So yeah, Texas is fine.
Yeah.
Texas can stay.
Yeah, it's not death in taxes. It's death in Texas.
Goddamn, Ryan.
Yeah.
Just goddamn.
Goddamn. Let's see. What are the states? Let's see. We can let go of the Deep South. We can let go of California. We could blow up half of New York. Not the
Just
state. The city.
Leave half of it.
Yes. Leave the Statue of Liberty and leave Manhattan and the UN. Even though I think the UN could probably go too. But we don't need a majority of New York. Oh, whatever. There's just a lot of superfluous places in the Union that don't need to go. And here's another thing that's it's kind of. I've been watching a lot more like EU Parliament videos. They've started referring to it as the Union, and we have to keep people in the Union.
Oh God.
And I'm like, guys, you're trying to make it the United States of Europe. This is not going to work.
No. Europe is like, it's very interesting. It's an interesting place. It's not united, it's a confederation. I don't get why they don't call themselves the European Confederacy, because that's what they are. They're not a union, they're a confederacy. So
They keep trying. They're continually consolidating the power to the parliament. The problem is the parliament's unelected.
oh boy.
So, I mean, when you have unelected people making all the decisions, they really don't have to give a shit about what those decisions do to other people.
Let's let in all the refugees.
Yep. Well,
Like,
that's
go
enough. That's enough discussion for today. I think I'm going to cut it off there. So, we will see. We'll be back next week, hopefully, with another interesting subject. I don't know if I can think of something. Why don't we just have we should have an Alex Jones special.
No. Fuck you and your fetish for Alex Jones.
How is it a fetish?
How is it a fetish? Do you want me to go into detail?
You can go into detail next week. Goodbye.